Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to Las Vegas Market, our summer programming, which is the beginning of our summer season, and we're excited. We're going to be on site later here in August 22nd through 26th, and we invite you to join us on site. This is part of our pre-market virtual programming. And today we have Julie Smith-Vincenti with Nine Muses Media presenting our first look, 2021. Trend Watch is our High Point counterpart. So this is first look 2021, looking at home furnishings. And this is CEU approved, and it's with IDCEC. So if you need that credit, it will be available to you afterwards, and I'll email you that information. If you have any questions for Julie, go ahead and put those in the question and answer tab, and we'll get to those. We'll have some time available. So Julie, I'll turn this over to you.
Great, thanks so much, Kim. Let me just take a moment to get my screen share going. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone. It is a great joy and pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. Whichever time zone you're connecting with us, we're happy you're here. So first look is the program, as Kim had mentioned, that we produce for the Las Vegas market. And if you've been with us throughout the pandemic, you know that we've been coming to you virtually. We are coming to you live at market this summer, and we're really excited. In addition to today's webinar, we have another webinar next week in which we'll be focusing on gifts and textiles and housewares and tabletop. And super excited, and hope you can join us for that as well. We also, our publication returns, 36 product packed pages of new introductions and bestsellers that you can find at Las Vegas Market, your best sort of cross-category sourcing experience. We have a whole new display structure being built for us for the summer show. It's going to be located in the expo in a way that kind of, you can't miss it if you use the parking lot, you use the shuttles, or you walk into the expo or building C. So we're really excited for you to see that. And then on site, I will be at market, and we have our very familiar, popular webinar seminar is back, and that's going to be on Monday at 11 a.m. to noon. So I'm hoping that you can join us there as well. With that being said, you're looking at an early release of our cover for the summer 2021 edition, and I ask you to take note of those cover lines you see: early to rise, special effects, home away, and 80s beats. Those are the themes of our 4 displays that you can see at market. Some of the interior pages, and I'm letting you kind of, again, a sneak peek, take a look at those as I share with you some of the style motivations and trends that help to shape these 4 ideas. So first up is our early to rise. And sunny is up and novelties are sweet in this brunch breakfast vignette that you can see at market. We're going to be showing housewares, small appliances, tabletop, gourmet, casual dining furniture, and decorative accessories. This is a family-focused, wellness-focused space with some bright colors. You're going to see some of Pantone's colors of the year in our early to rise vignette as well. Special effects is where we're showcasing abstract patterns, translucent materials, neon lights, iridescent finishes, shimmery metallics. This is about pattern, this is about surface, and they appear as if they've been created over time, so achieved in nature, as if they've been shaped by human hands, or if they are the result of sort of chemical reactions. In our 3rd vignette, Home and Away, we are featuring we're sort of getting inside the mind of the post-pandemic consumer, and we're going to look at home furnishings, style inspirations, specific product categories, And we're going to kind of talk about this idea of discretionary spending and this pent-up desire on the part of the homeowner and the consumer to travel again. And lastly, in 80s beats, we're going to be looking at 80s era influences across all the categories, from handbags to lip balm. It's modern and it's vintage at the same time, bright colors. But what you'll also take note of is black and white as a sort of foundation or background for our 80s story. So speaking of the 80s, this is actually a visual I had put together for a program we did about a month or so ago, in which we started looking at 80s inspiration and influences in home furnishings. And for those of you who remember all of these moments, like me, I'm sure you recall when MTV made its debut. And I've included this collage. If anyone wants to do a little trivia, what was the first song that was played on MTV? No prizes. What was the first song that was played on MTV when it made its debut after midnight on August 1st of 1981? In any case, there's no grade here, no prize either, but still just a little fun way to participate in our chat if you don't mind. MTV would go on to revolutionize the music industry. It would become this influential source of pop culture and entertainment in the United States and beyond. It pushed boundaries. It tested the mores of the time. Celebrities and musicians began to infuse political commentary. And it's when you started to see music and fashion and movies and television and politics and identity and lifestyle and fitness all kind of converge. And that doesn't sound too uncommon to these sort of times that we're in. The only thing that was different is it didn't happen by way of social media. It happened by way of music videos. So that being said, some stylistic things I just would like to remind you of as we take this journey back in time, the sort of popularity of vintage design shops, that sort of New York punk street, gritty murals and graffiti that you would see in these sort of city settings. You would start to see social commentary be much more prominent in terms of celebrities speaking their minds. And you would start to see this kind of EGOTs crossover where your musicians became the marquee names that you would see in movies. That being said, we did receive a couple music-related 80s era submissions to First Look this time around. I'm going to take just a brief moment to let you know how our process works. We reach out to all the Las Vegas market tenants, and we share with them the 4 ideas that we are going to move forward with for the upcoming market. We ask them to submit category products across all categories. And we ask tenants, as I mentioned, from the entire shopping experience or sourcing experience, including the new temporary expo center. So with that being said, I have this great privilege of taking all of these submissions and editing them down and curating them down to tell the stories that we share with you by way of our publication, our displays, and our online programming. With that being said, we've received some nods to 80s era music. The piece you're seeing on the left is a laser cut rusted metal sign. Features the lyrics of Van Morrison. It's from Prairie Dance Metal Art, and you can see them at market. Def Leppard's Pour Some Sugar on Me is a wood laser cut sign from a company called Spunky Fluff, and they offer upwards of 20 different finishes on this design, and you'll see it in our display in the Pantone co-color of the year that you see on the screen right now. Part of looking at the 80s for stylistic influence beyond music is looking at the shape. And for a couple seasons now, we've started to see more rounded edges, more curves. This is especially true in upholstered pieces. And I think that this image from a designer who has launched an area rug collection sort of sums it all up, right? Rounded forms, translucent materials, a nod to neon lighting, as well as that sort of whisper of pink on the walls. And pink, as you know, became iconic, or excuse me, pastels became sort of iconic brands or colors for certain celebrities. And I'm thinking here specifically of like Wham. Another 80s era influence would be the Memphis Design Group. So that was in December of 1980, H.R.A. Sostas and a group of designers came together, and they would go on to make commentaries on everyday objects. Their objectives were using clashing colors, haphazard arrangements, plastic laminates and terrazzo, and they were conceived as being functional pieces, not purely as decorative, though I think now our eye looks at these pieces as more decoration than function. That being said, another little bit of music trivia. The reason that they're called the Memphis Group is because apparently Bob Dylan's Stuck Inside of Mobile with the Memphis Blues Again was playing on repeat during this initial meeting of the designers in the 1980s. So with that being said, while the colors are a little bit different in this collection, I'm using this image from Curry & Company to sort of kick off this idea. This is the Mr. M collection, and while the stylistic inspiration is the colors popular by Mondrian, the painter, the Mr. M collection brings some of what the Memphis design does, and that is some joy, some mirth, some pops of color, kind of makes you smile, very upbeat. And I think that it could be said for certainly most of the people on the planet today that a little bit of joy, a little bit of mirth is certainly welcome. So this is the Mr. M collection, named after Mondrian. I say also that M could stand for mirth. There's 10 accessories. It's a capsule collection that was designed by Curry CEO Brownlee Curry, as well as an international consultant, Jean-Charles Chapuis. And the pieces are all that you see, all that you see here. And some of this playfulness as conveyed through color also comes through in other categories, including these new candles from Patty Wax, where you see these colorful checkerboard votives, very much part of, sort of lifts the spirit and adds a sort of smile. Some of these same playful patterns coming through in this collection from Design Works. I've snuck in a couple gift products here in our home furnishings presentation today, just to kind of illustrate this idea of color bringing some joy, and specifically these sort of checkerboard patterns and even like the domino patterns too. But in terms of, and we see some other examples of that too, where just a little bit of pattern and a little bit of color go a long way to add some of this kind of upbeat 80s sort of retro vibe. The chest that you're seeing on the right is by Jamie Beckwith with Beckwith Interiors. Now, she partnered with Curry & Company back in 2017, and she's considered a kind of a higher end, like she loves wood, and she's known for these very high-end wood treatments on floor materials, on vertical surfaces. All the wood is manufactured or processed in her factory in Nashville, Tennessee. And her mission is to sort of change the concept of how wood can be used in design. This is the Aero Credenza, a kind of unique take on the chevron pattern, and you can see how the wood is kind of laid in this very precise, very attractive way. We're also showing the Bauhaus Shapes Spring Clock from Denny Designs. Denny Designs is a new exhibitor at Las Vegas Market. You should definitely check it out. So essentially they're supporting artists, and that those artists' designs or patterns or illustrations are available on a variety of home furnishings. And so we're just showing one tiny little example of what the whole line has to offer. Meanwhile, on the left, you're seeing the Faith table lamp with these really groovy black and white and gold combinations. And so even in the instances where these shapes are less contrasty in black and white, still quite upbeat. So here we're looking at a coffee table from Essentials for Living that's made from resin and dyed bone. We're looking at a lovely chair from Dovetail Furniture that you can see in our product displays at market beginning August 22nd, as well as just this fun triangular repeat on this new tote from Deco. These repeating sort of diamonds come through in other categories as well. Here we're looking at a wood and metal wall shelf from a company that we're going to be featuring in our displays, Danya B. We have the Reinhold 3 cocktail table from Mercana. That's the design on the lower left of your screen. And then the table on the right is from JLA. It's called Mila. Surprising no one, gray remains the dominant neutral, and that was true of the submissions that we received for our summer curation. This is across all price points, across all categories, across all materials, and across all applications. And I think these 4 pieces go a long way to show that. On the one hand, you've got the Zuo Berkeley chair with that really nice open back that's covered in a vintage gray faux leather. Then you have the GRC indoor-outdoor dining table from Sunset West. And it's like this lightweight glass fiber reinforced concrete in this very minimalist high-end shape. You're looking at the Ferrier coffee table in black and bronze. That's from Zuo. And then the Cherokee collection area rug from Unique Loom in the fossil gray colorway. You heard me mention just now black and bronze. Take note of the number of times you hear me say bronze or antique brass in today's presentation. That's going to go a long way to shaping some of our trend forecasts and trend stories for well into the fall season as well. In our Early to Rise, our dining collection has a white foundational piece of this dining table, this oval dining table from Eurostyle. We're pairing it with this great swivel chair, also from Eurostyle. And just for the purposes of today and to illustrate, here's the Clement dining chair from Dovetail in rose velvet and brass. Ding, 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 another mention of brass or bronze. So one of the key things in sort of conveying this kind of 80s, and I might be repeating myself here, is this idea of black and white as a foundation for a bright color contrast or a really dominant pattern to sort of contrast. Now, for the purposes of today, I'm showing you a mid-century modern bedroom collection from Modway. But for our display, we're going to be featuring the same design in black and white, and it's going to go a long way to kind of showing how to achieve this kind of 80s vibe for sure. This is the Brigitte collection, upholstered platform bed, and it's available with just the headboard or also with the platform. We're featuring a black dresser from Manhattan Comfort. This is the Rockefeller dresser. It also comes as nightstands and smaller dressers, and it has these great sort of cutout drawers. Definitely a very affordable, approachable price point, and the piece itself kind of has that sort of young, fun feel to it for sure. Again, just a background foundational piece for very strong color, very strong pattern. To illustrate that point, I've brought in a slide from a previous presentation that we did in which we showed these kind of Bauhaus meets Memphis design shapes in black and white with some of this bronze. And I think the wallpaper that you see on the right is a superior example, again, of just black and white as a foundation for a great pattern or a great accent color. Part of also talking about 80s as a design inspiration or as an era or a decade for design inspiration, we also have to talk about Art Deco, because during the 1980s, there was a lot of interest in the Art Deco style. And we need only remember all of those Erte wall calendars that everyone was giving at gifts in the 1980s to be sort of reminded of that. Here's some great pieces that sort of show not only the pattern, but also a mix of material, these sort of round linear forms as well as curved forms. And we have some designs that sort of speak to that same idea in this season's curation. On the left, we've got the fluted drinks table from Global Views. It's hand gilded gold leaf finish. The Arteriors Hendrix cabinet is hand carved oak solid and veneers, and we are featuring that in our display a couple weeks from now, as well as the light fixture from Calco. That is the Samal, and it's the Capiz shell material, as well as metal. And again, these all kind of coming together to sort of speak to this sort of nod to Art Deco inspirations. I had mentioned bronze, I mentioned brass, and I'm going to do it throughout all of our presentation today, as well as next week's on gift and textiles and housewares. But look at these gorgeous, wonderful examples of these warm metal finishes. And that's very earthy quality and very artful quality. In the center, you're looking at these modern wall plaques from Arteriors. It's antique brass and bronze finishes. These metal has been laser cut to kind of create a lily pad-like pattern. You're looking at a lovely sconce from Curry & Company. This is the Anglesey brass wall sconce. And the company sort of offers this up in, well, first off, two finishes, raw cast aluminum or the finish you see here. And their suggestion is that you can really even go into sort of an urban loft or even sort of a modern farmhouse with this particular design. Very elegant. And then on the left, you're seeing this kind of warm, organic quality of art glass in this table lamp from Pacific Coast Lighting. Some additional examples might include incorporating heron hide leather alongside bronze and brass, and then these lovely, really fun striped tube watertight vessels from Studio A. You can choose bronze or matte white, and have a tremendous amount of fun mixing the finishes as well as the different size options that you have within this collection. One of our additional themes for summer 2021 is special effects. And in this showcase, we're looking at these sort of marbling, we're looking at iridescence, we're looking at metallics, and we've got some fine examples that you can see at the upcoming market. For starters, that marble wall mural that you're looking at on the right, also from Denny Designs, is going to be the backdrop for our dining vignette. It's called Love Spell Marble Wall Mural. And it's available in a couple different widths, and also that whole like easy to hang model of you can do it yourself. On the left, you're looking at an area rug from the Prismatic collection from Nurasan, which is always just one of those collections that you just sort of have to see at market, because the company has done a phenomenal job with, you know, color and pattern, of course, but also bringing in that sort of texture piece in such a convincing way. And the extent that it comes through on your screen, I can't know for sure, but even on mine, I can see that they've hand carved this rug to create this kind of rippling water, like a pooling water effect. It's absolutely gorgeous. We won't have this rug in our display, but we have another design from the Prismatic collection. The pillow is faux fur with sequins. It's also from Nurasan. It's part of their Mina Victory Accent Home collection. It's available in two sizes, excuse me, and we're featuring both of those in our display. Iridescence is kind of key to this sort of special effects story. In the center, you're looking at the Luna area rug for cast rugs. It's got metallic highlights and this kind of feathery pattern that really takes to the light in really gorgeous ways and has a lovely, wonderful feel to it. The Solitude table lamp on the right is from Pacific Coast Lighting, and it's offered in a smoke blue, gray, iridescent finish combination, really attractive. You can see that in our display. And then even a sort of iridescent finish that you see on this metal travel mug from Corksicle. This is a new colorway from the company. And again, sort of speaks to that sort of metallics or sparkle and shine, just a little something extra that makes our home furnishings and our gifts special. So I'm going to kind of segue into our final vignette for summer 2021. It's called Home Away. And one of the things, you know, we've all been going through this together. And we've all been looking to, you know, the headlines and experts for insights as to when things will start to seem more like they used to be again. And so if you go, so one of the ways that you can do that, and I've been doing this a couple times, especially as I started traveling again during the pandemic, you can go to the TSA website and you can look at the sort of throughput numbers. That's to say the number of people that are being screened at airports that are traveling. And I captured the latest, I guess I could have done today, but anyway, this is from a couple days ago. And it shows, you know, each day, you know, just puts into really sharp focus this idea that what the numbers, the travel throughput was in 2019. So even just looking at like August 2nd, you know, you had upwards of 2.6 million people being screened by the TSA in 2019. That number dropped to 737 in 2020. That's not nearly the lowest. That number, if you scroll through this whole website, is amazingly low when you got into some of the real touchy, challenging times of the pandemic, dropping down to actually 5 figures. But you can start to see that these numbers are sort of coming back, right? Even if they're still maybe upwards of like 25% down from where they were 2 years prior. That being said, this is kind of like a real-time measurement to really get into the heads of the consumers to understand, like, people are comfortable traveling again. And so with that being said, even just looking at like the 4th of July weekend, you know, 2.1 million people flew on 4th of July weekend. So this idea of staying at home, well, you know, by January of 2021, various travel agency marketers and whatnot came out with some stats. And so by January of this year, 1/3 of Americans said that they had been daydreaming about travel, right? Wanderlust, perfect illustration of this, the concept of wanderlust. 1/4 had actually began researching those travel ideas online. And what did they say that they wanted back in January 2021? Well, not so surprising. They wanted beautiful scenery. They wanted warm weather, outdoor activities. They wanted the beach. They wanted national parks, and they wanted to road trip. So fast forward to this past summer, and we're starting to hear this the expression revenge spending, which is like needs its own sound effect whenever you hear it, right? Revenge spending. So during the pandemic, what we found in the home furnishings category and the gift category is a few things happened. Number one, consumers being home were spending more on home, right? Whether that was just changing out their pillows, buying a new area rug, or remodeling, or renovating, or make, you know, even something as ambitious as an entire new hardscaping for their backyard. That being said, we are now entering a phase of this pandemic, everyone's life has changed, where this desire for wanderlust and to get away from home is very pronounced. And so back, you know, at the start of the summer, when asked what this revenge spending would look like, consumers were saying in surveys, travel, dining, and in-person entertainment. A couple of things so as we kind of go through this shift, and if you've been in some of my presentations in the past, you know, we've got a challenge in our industry, right? This sort of discretionary dollar spend. There's a new iPhone, a new car, and new home furnishings. Excuse me. And in home furnishings, we're competing against some really popular, very tantalizing categories, to say the least. Excuse me for just a moment. So with that being said, the upside to people who choose Las Vegas market to do their sourcing, you're also able to look for travel accessories, gift, personal accessories, personal care products that support this desire for travel. We'll show you some great examples of that in our presentation next week. But two things that are important to us in home furnishings that we've learned from the pandemic that are going to go on to sort of shape how we source in the future and how we reach out to consumers in the future. Number one, we know that there's significantly less resistance on the part of the consumer to shop online. And the other dynamic that's changed in home furnishings as a result of the pandemic is this issue of brand loyalty. And so expect, certainly in a lot of our discussion moving into 2022, this examination of what does brand loyalty mean anymore? That being said, just a few more stats that kind of support our home and away theme. Huge rise in number of people looking for more rural destinations for their vacations, for their road trips, mountain and lake, coastal, mid-sized cities. But take a look at this stat on the lower right? The US short-term rental industry posted an all-time high of 70.2% occupancy of June of this year. That's higher than it was in 2019. So at the same time, it may seem daunting if consumers are going to start directing all their discretionary dollars to vacation. On the other hand, this gives us some opportunities to draw some style inspiration and to sort of tap into this idea of bringing the vacation experience into the home. So with that being said, we're going to see in our home and away vignette, very beach-inspired spaces, a very beach-inspired space. And so some of the product you'll see, Screen Gems Classic Surfboard, which is a two-sided design. It's a room divider, and there's another coastal image on the other side of this design. A lot of fun. The piece, the wall decor piece in the center is from Messenberg. It's the Jupiter Beach. It's part of their new large-scale wall decor collection. And lastly, the piece on the right is Sunrise Sunset, which is a power loomed area rug from Unique Loom. Kind of recalls a sort of landscape and a sunset. This idea of being out in the open and traveling out in the open, like I said, I've peppered in a few gift products in today's presentation, but I just wanted to make a point that this idea of being out in the open and traveling again and being around people in outdoor settings is manifest not just in like beach-inspired wall decor, but also even like the fragrances that we want. This is a new collection from Firefly Candle, and it draws its inspiration from open air markets. And so some of the fragrance, some of the scents, fresh grapefruit, basil lemongrass, wild mint, orange clove, tree farm. These are classic, comforting scents that people have been longing for, and that ultimately work to kind of conjure up this idea of normalcy and returning to times that feel less stressful. Handcrafted products are such a key category at Las Vegas market. This is especially true when you're sourcing at the expo. Here's two new companies that you'll find. We're featuring both of these brands in our product displays. I'm super excited to see them up close. The piece on the left is a raffia and seashell wall decor from Ceremonia. And the leather wrapped vases on the right are from Barrett Brooks. Barrett and I were exchanging some emails leading up to market, and she was kind of torn. She's like, well, should I send you all three vases in all three colors? She offers 3 different leather colors, and these look great either way. I'm really excited for you to come by and see those in our display. We have here some additional, the piece on the right is handcrafted. It's from Kazi and all across Africa. This is the Penelope pom-pom basket. Raffia and banana leaf are used to make this really charming design. The piece on the left is also in our displays. It looks like it's made from natural materials, but in fact, it's an all-weather synthetic water hyacinth, which means this piece obviously crosses that indoor-outdoor threshold. Very excited to kind of see this work into our presentation, and that's from Indo Puri. I don't know if I mentioned that. So that sort of tropical vibe coming through in these designs. We're featuring this light fixture from our Terriers home. This is, each of those is a circular elements, is a carved bead. It's the Hanny chandelier. Come by our display and check it out. Essentials for Living has this great Flora Media sideboard, and that is featured in our publication. These island tropical handcrafted pieces are sort of essential components into creating a sort of boho interiors. And we still hear so much love and affection for boho interiors because they're welcoming, because they're comforting. Here's some kind of 1, 2, 3 easy pieces that would be essential to creating a boho interior. The piece on the left is a chair from Dovetail. The rug is from Unique Looms. And you can see those 2 pieces in our displays. The piece on the right is a kind of pattern mashup from Bloomingville. And one of the things to take note here is, again, with these sort of rounded upholstery forms, speaking to a kind of breakaway, at least on the upholstery side, from sort of mid-century modern silhouettes. One of the things the pandemic also has done, and this is essential to creating a boho interior, right? Having live green material, having plants. As we emerge from the pandemic, there is a new hobby, and it is called houseplants. Houseplants are tremendously popular. They were so when we started to see leaders like Justina Blakeney showing us how much live material, how much she loves living with plants. That being said, there's a number of houseplant influencers that you find on your social media channels. And if you just look at, this is some stats from Garden Center magazine. Almost 2/3 of independent garden centers saw an increase of more than 15% of houseplant sales. And 80% of those respondents say they expect that to increase even more come 2021. Well, that's great news, because at Las Vegas Market, there's a number of great resources for really cool planters, including Braid and Wood Design Studio. She offers 3 different metal finishes and 2 different wood finishes. We're going to have some of her designs in our display. Here's the great white and gold Geo planter from Floribunda. And of course, if you love planters, and it's kind of one of my secret little crush categories, planters, wood stands are kind of all the rage. Here's a great design of recycled plastic material for planters. You can see this in the Gifts of Nature showroom. These collections, each of these recycled pieces is watertight. And lastly, here is some new artwork on planters from Green Box Art. This company celebrates the work of its illustrators. This is a design by Heather Gauthier, and it's available on a number of gift, tabletop, and textile products. I'm just going to check the clock really quick. We do have a little bit of time, and that includes the sort of formal part of today's first look presentation. My little tease here for next Tuesday, 1 o'clock, same bat channel, same bat time. Throughout market, we'll be posting using the first look LVMKT hashtag, so you can follow that. I don't easily have a way to get to the chat, or actually I do. Okay, so let me see if I can get to the chat and see if there were any questions. This could just be all of you getting that Buggles MTV song correct. Video killed a radio star. Nice job, Beck. Way to go. Let me see. I'm having a hard time scrolling through. But because I have a couple more minutes, I wanted to also just share with you some additional comments. Oh dear, where's my cursor? So because I have a couple extra minutes and it doesn't look like we had too many questions, our digital edition of First Look is going to be available, and you can access it from lasvegasmarket.com. And it has a lot of what you saw in today's presentation, most of what you saw in today's presentation, in the digital edition, which you can access prior to market. We have hard copies at market, and if you come to our webinar on Tuesday, you'll receive a hard copy. And at that time, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some other things that I'm going to spend like just a couple minutes sharing with you, just to sort of step inside the mind. Rainbow palettes alongside 80s influence, right? This is a still from the 1984 Wonder Woman, right? Remember, they just came out with that last year, and it's Wonder Woman 1984. So you see some great 80s inspiration in that film, but rainbow palettes are something we're keeping an eye out. Not just rainbow palettes as you see them on one product, but combining several products together to sort of tell that sort of story. Another thing that's on my mind right now is the Mycelium Leathers that we're starting to hear more about. We're seeing it here and there in apparel, here and there in footwear. But I think even just the fact that I think one of them, it's like Hulu, Netflix, or Amazon Prime. One of them has a documentary out, this fantastic fungi, the magic beneath us, which I think is going to just bring a little more awareness on the part of consumers. Pineapple leaf as a material being incorporated into personal accessories. There's an example of that mushroom leather in the lower right, as well as an image from Hilton Hotel in London. It's that, remember, it's the first like vegan hotel room, and it incorporates a lot of these lab grown leathers. Looking at velvety finishes. We've had so much velvet in the marketplace for some time now, but more of a sort of opaque finishes. Those are kind of top of mind for me, as well as incorporating electronics. And you see some of that iridescence, as well as some fun interactive wall decor. I'll tell you more about that in the in our seminar at market. And so also, I don't know if you saw this, and this will be kind of be my closing little tidbit for the day. Did you happen to see these Home Advisor poster that shows the architecture of James Bond? If you've been waiting for the new James Bond film like I have, you probably get a kick out of this. What they did is Home Advisor partnered with an artist and who made one of these great like illustration posters. The artist's name is Leonie Wharton, and it shows all of the different like iconic Bond architectural features. And I thought I'd just sort of leave you with this note, because here's how they kind of market it. Few franchises have influenced American culture like James Bond has, and that includes architecture. Manicured estates, prairie-style house plans, and well-furnished lodges provide more than incredible film sets and backdrops. They spark inspiration and are easier to imitate on your own property than you might think. So all eyes to the October release of the next James Bond film to see if we can be drawing some inspiration from there. So with that being said, thank you so much. And I hope to see you on Tuesday for our First Look webinar part 2.